Hey there, it's 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, which means a live stream of Behind Breaking Bond. And this is, of course, a behind the scenes look at our ongoing series, Breaking Bond. And because this is a broadcast, it's live stream, and we want to really let you see what goes behind the scenes. There could be a little bit of hair pulling and scratching and
I don't have
maybe
it.
even some of this.
I could wish for some hair pulling, but you can pull my hair. Hey, it's Andy Kahn, Crime Stoppers. It's I guess really good to be here. But man, what a crazy week.
Really. I mean, it's unreal.
I put out something yesterday on social media. Said I lost track how many people have been shot and killed in the last week, the last day, the last 3 days in Harris County. It kind of reminds me, and I guess I'll age myself, where the old Star Trek series, when you hear a red alert, red alert, red alert. We need red alert.
Definitely.
In Harris County. We've got red alerts on COVID and pandemic. We also need, danger.
Yeah, well, it's the 8th, today's the 18th. What's the date?
Yeah, sounds good.
We're just in the first 18 days of the new year, and we've already exceeded the number of murders that we've had when you compare it to the same time period last year.
And in last year, let's go back, we had over 600 homicides when you combine Houston and Harris County unincorporated. That's an over 70% increase since 2019. I mean, I've been around, you've been around, those numbers just blow me away.
They're astronomical. And one of the things too, like people that have been watching us for a while, the whole point of Breaking Bond is we're trying to make the public aware of the revolving door at the courthouse, basically. We see crimes committed over and over again by defendants who they're repeat violent offenders. They're out on more than one felony bond, and they go on to even.
When you do a story, and when I was watching you last night at the press conference where they announced the suspect in the poor person, that the manager of Cracker Barrel, that lost her life trying to protect her employees and was from being robbed and shot. I mean, the first thing that you're probably thinking of, I know the defendant's on some sort.
I did. I was. I'm just waiting for it.
You knew it was happening. You knew it was coming. And I think we're actually shocked if someone is arrested and charged, particularly with a murder, if they're not out on bond.
Sound true. Yeah.
Because and years ago, that was unheard of.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's just, I can't even describe it.
And I know that a lot of people ask me, and I'm sure they ask you the same thing. How do we make this stop? What can we do? How can we make this stop? The way that you can have your voice heard is by voting. And we're just, maybe about 5 weeks away from the primary.
Primaries, you can start early voting, I think, in a few weeks.
That's right, yeah.
And then March 1st, I think, is the actual primary date.
Yes.
We'll be, voting for who's going to be judge, who's going to be Harris County judge, who's going to be this, and that. But for the first time in my memory, you have 13 incumbent judges right now that are up for re-election, that are running to be re-elected as a judge. And of the 13, 8 have primary opponents.
Very unusual.
And some of them have more than one. There's in a couple courts, there's 3 people, including the incumbent judge, running to be, that party's designee in the general election. I've never seen incumbent judges ever challenged by someone in their own party for a seat on the bench until 2022.
And a lot of people people are aware that this is the reason this is happening is because judges are allowing it to happen. We've talked to 2 judge candidates over the last couple of weeks. We were going to have Catherine Thomas. She's running in the 182nd.
Oh, 184th.
184th.
That's my bowling average. That's why I remember that.
But unfortunately, she had to cancel at the last minute, and we're hoping to have her on next Tuesday. And again, I want to make it clear to everyone, if you're running for a criminal district court judge, if you're currently a criminal district court judge, we want you to come on here and join us for Behind Breaking Bond. And we want to give you the opportunity to say anything you want to about being a judge or about why you are running for judge.
And what goes into the decision-making process? How do you decide, well, this person we're going to grant a bond to, I'm going to reduce the bond, or in other cases, no, you don't need to be back to the community, I'm going to make a higher bond. What goes into the thought process? I mean, you're sitting there kind of like we are right now. You're at a bench, you've got somebody's paperwork, you're looking at it going, well, is this person going to be a good or a bad risk? I mean, so I think it's just important. And I've always said, I want to know what makes you decide how you decide. And whether I agree or disagree, quite frankly, is irrelevant.
Right.
It's kind of like an umpire in a baseball game. You're calling the balls and strikes. There's some I'm going to agree with, some I'm going to shake my head. I can't believe you called that. But you ultimately make the call. And
again, this is, for many, many years, the attitude at the courthouse, the criminal courthouse, was, yes, by the Texas Constitution, yes, you get a bond. Everybody deserves a bond. But if you're out on bond and you're picking up new criminal charges, you just violated your bond. So it comes down, a judge has to decide, how many times am I going to give you the opportunity to go out and commit more alleged crimes, or God forbid, kill someone? And that's what Crime Stoppers has pretty much taken position on. We supported the misdemeanor bond reform. We didn't have any issues with that. But where we drew the line was what we started to see, and that is defendants being repeatedly released on felonies. We're talking, aggravated robbery, murder, sexual assault, burglary case. We saw them being repeatedly released time and time again, and they get charged time and time again. I mean, you look what happened in August of 21 at the Grotto. Yeah.
A restaurant, in the gallery. They have an off-duty New Orleans police officer sitting out with his fraternity brothers sitting outside at 5 p.m. One of the defendants charged in his murder is a 19-year-old, Frederick Jackson. He's on 5 felony bonds in 1 year. I mean, his bond was actually revoked, which, of course, should have been. But then, as you and I have been saying, all of a sudden you get reinstated and back out you go. I'm sorry, if you get 5 charges in 1 year, you're pretty much demonstrating you're not a good risk to the public.
Right.
And you're not very good at what you do because you keep getting arrested and charged with new crimes again. So that's where we kind of draw the line, is decisions like that end up costing people their lives.
Right. And if you're a defendant in a criminal case and you want to remain out on bond, you want to remain free, then you just have to abide by the rules. And it's not like they're that right. I mean, it's not that incredibly stringent, but everybody has to not pick up a new criminal charge, because that's going to be a violation.
And again, that's what you and I've been. There used to be the adage in Harris County: 1 bond per customer. You're out on bond, you're charged with a new crime, especially a felony. Guess what? You're not back out again. You've clearly demonstrated that you're a risk, because you already, by being charged with a new offense while on bond. So that's kind of what we're seeing. And you look at the numbers that were put out by the district attorney's office. It blew me away. You had double the amount of defendants charged or on bond charged with felony crimes. You have over 110 defendants charged with capital murder on bond. 30 years, I could count the amount of times I've seen defendants released on bond on capital murder. I can take my 1/2, remove a few fingers. It was unheard of, and now it's commonplace.
Yeah, and I think that most folks in Harris County, I think you feel a little scared in a way, because you see so much criminal activity. Well, last night, maybe a dozen shootings. I mean, this has just gotten out of hand.
You don't have enough reporters to cover the amount of shootings that are going on any given day,
right,
and at any given night right now. And it's just become either it's so commonplace right now, or we're just so immune and we expect it. And every day you say, "There, by the grace of God, go you and I,"
right,
because you weren't one of the victims of the shooting. So I don't know why. it's not a priority, and it should be a priority, and that's what we've been saying. I think the only issue you're going to see in this upcoming election cycle, obviously in Harris County, is crime.
Definitely, definitely. And again, I know that there are folks out there, you're watching this right now because you are concerned about this, and you can change things. You do have a voice, and that voice comes when you go to the polls. I am not a political guy at all. I mean, I'm not. In all my career, I've never done real political kind of stories. We're going this route now because this is what you can do if you want to see it stop. And again, the primary is coming up, and in the primary, there are 8 criminal district court judges who have opponents. One thing that I think you need to look at it this way. And again, I'm talking about if you want to make a change regarding the judges that are sort of pushing the revolving door at the courthouse. I think you should go into it and not really look at it like I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican.
Yeah. Remove your party affiliation and vote for what you think is the best person suited, and start getting yourself educated on who's on the bench. As I like to say, local elections actually matter more than national elections or what's happening throughout the state. And obviously in Harris County, it's matter even more so from what we're seeing.
Yeah, and in some of these primaries, I mean, it could come down to a handful of votes could make a huge difference. Am I right?
I've seen it. I've seen it before. So again, if you're concerned with what's happening in Harris County with the rising crime rates, then you have an opportunity to have a voice. And we've been doing Crime Stoppers. We've been doing meetings with communities, neighborhood groups, and if you want us to do one, you just give us a call and we'll do that. And I'm always amazed what people really don't know. I mean, I've had people ask me questions. Well, who appoints these judges?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you vote for them. No one gets appointed. You make the decision who sits and makes these decisions regarding.
And when you think about it, up until now, it's one of those races that you wouldn't go to the polls and be that focused on, right? Because you would have judges that had been in place for a long time, and you might go by party, you might go by, well, I recognize this name, or someone's been around a long time. I don't think anybody has cared about criminal district court judge races like they have now because it's so important.
No, you'll get no argument from me on that. Everywhere I go, people are talking about this. So I again, educate yourself. It's not that difficult to get the information. You can look up anybody who's running.
And we're going to try to help you too along the way. We've done many stories, and all along we've been naming names, and some judges are very upset over that. But hey, everything we are telling you is a matter of public record. It's not because I thought it up or he thought it up. Everything that we've told you in Breaking Bond segments, you can access that information on your own. It's all public information.
And I'm sure, last night's press conference, you were asking questions, and I know they couldn't divulge, who the now deceased suspect is.
Right.
But, we all found out that
yes.
he was out on multiple bonds. He was a wanted fugitive as well. And I'm sure right now, every district court judge is sitting there going, God, please don't let it be one of these guys that we let out on bond multiple times. I know everybody's just going, oh, please don't let it be mine.
But we will, as we get closer to the primary, in the Breaking Bond segments, we're going to go back and take a look at some of the judges that we have highlighted and go over some of the reasons why we highlighted them, decisions that they made that cost people their lives. We're up to how many people?
156 that I've documented in the last few years, and of that 156, a majority of those since 2020. And again, keep in mind that that's just what we know.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up.
Hundreds of cases. So that's kind of like a lowball number because we know the number is only going to continue to rise.
Yeah, there's a lot of homicides in Houston, Harris County that are not solved. We can't find the information until law enforcement, they make an arrest and they say, okay, the suspect, the person charged with murder is so-and-so, and then that's kind of where
Once
it
the
all
suspect
begins.
is identified, like, we have all, you see us all the times with these paperworks, and that's kind of where I get into my, digging mode. And I'll look at it. First thing I'll want to do is find out when the murder took place. And then I'll go back and look at the criminal history. Was the person on parole? Was he on probation? Was he on bond? What happened while he was on bond? Was he abiding by the rules and conditions? Did he violate his bond? And so all these things factor into everything that we do before you even see a segment.
Right, right. But we do hope to educate you as much as we can help educate yourself about the races, because they are so important. And of course we're gonna focus on the races the primary races. And then as we go through the year, as we get closer to November, we're gonna look at all of them, because every judge has a candidate, has someone running against them.
Every misdemeanor court judge, every felony court judge, no one is running unopposed in the general election this time.
If you all ever have any questions, please go online, give them to us. You can contact me through Facebook, Andy through Facebook. We want to hear from you all. We want to hear what your concerns are. We want to hear what the kind of information you want us to get for you.
Well, Tom wants to know which judges have the revolving door.
There's been several. Some that come to mind is Judge Hillary Unger.
Yep.
Judge Greg Glass. Yep. Judge Chris Morton.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Judge Danny Lacayo.
The one we were going to have the primary opponent today in the 184th.
That's right.
Anastasio as well. One of the ones that doesn't have an opponent, Lori Chambers Gray, who's been featured on.
Right. Yeah. She does not have one, but
primary opponent. Yeah.
And too, I've noticed that if you just Google some of these judges' names, if we've done a Breaking Bond story, it'll come up. Or if some other station has done a story, I mean, keep in mind, you Google someone's name now, and if their name appeared in a television report or in the Chronicle or whatever, that will likely come up. So you could just Google names and sort of get an idea, right?
You can, and in all fairness as well, there's a lot of courts that we've never featured.
That's true. That's right.
There's courts that have never seen. It's kind of like, I referee basketball. The best referees and umpires are the ones you never talk about.
Right.
Because they're doing right. So in the same thing with some of the courts, there's a good handful of district court judges that have never seen the light of day of Breaking Bond, and hats off to you for doing that.
Right. But if it's sort of a high profile, like Martha Medina, I mean, where, a killing where everyone just was shocked by it, got a lot of play in the media, they'll come up. The judge name will come up. When you put the judge's name in, Google it, and that story will come up, or some other story where, I mean, we've done, I don't know, I would say more than 24 that are just downright shocking. I mean, when you look at them.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I was asked one time, well, can you pull out the top 5 worst or the top, and
it's hard.
I said, I can't do it justice. I can't do it. I can't narrow it down because so many of them are so egregious.
Right.
And so tragic, yet so utterly preventable.
Right. And it just, you look at some of them and there's like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 where you're like, how did that even happen? I mean, what? And then there might be 1 or 2 that it was a real high profile story. I mean, it was the person's murder was so heinous or troublesome that everybody in town is aware of it, or they wanted to see a story about it, or they were made aware in a story. So the judge, you Google the judge's name, and some of these stories will come up.
Yep, just like anything else. If you want information, it's readily available.
And we are, as we get closer to the primary, we're going to talk more specifics. It's a few weeks away, and it's like anything else. Everybody's got lives and stuff to do, and it's like you're always running around and never have enough time to get everything done.
Or you're going from grocery store to grocery store because everything is out of the price. And you're like, what if I go over here or over here? So, yeah.
I know you guys have explained this before, but Jay asks or says it's ridiculous to think that all people who are out on bond are repeat offenders.
Sure, there are people that they're out on bond, they're doing what they're supposed to do. And we're not going to talk about those people because they're doing what they need to do. I mean, that's a given. Sure, I would say there's probably.
We're not talking about someone who's on bond who was charged with one additional crime.
Right.
And that's an important distinction.
Thank you.
To keep.
Yes.
In fact, the numbers that we're talking about, you had to been on more than one felony bond, or you were on a get out of jail free card, or you were on bond and forfeited your bond. So for example, if you are on one bond and you are charged with murder while on bond, you didn't make the list.
We never did a story on you. And and there's a lot of people that fall into that category,
Yes,
correct?
So,
So yeah, I mean, it's basically, we're not looking at people that are successfully out on bond, awaiting trial, doing what they need to do, staying out of trouble. I'm sure there's tens of thousands, right?
You know, in a utopian world, you and I wouldn't be doing this.
Right,
But
yeah.
that's not reality, and that's not what we're seeing in
Yeah.
Harris County. So,
But again, I mean, we're looking at repeat violent offenders who are out on multiple felony bonds, not misdemeanor bonds, but felony bonds. And again, we pointed this out a few times. And there was a recent Court of Appeals decision, so I'm not real clear on the exact way to describe what's going on in misdemeanor courts. But take that out of the equation. And misdemeanor courts, there's a federal mandate, correct? A federal mandate that you can't keep people in jail for some misdemeanor offense, and you shouldn't. No one should sit in jail because of a hot check or something like that. We totally agree with that. Those people should be able to be out
and it shouldn't be on a cash basis.
Right.
So the majority of people right now in county jail are felonies, and they're either A, waiting for their case to go to trial, or B, they were sentenced to X amount in the county jail as well. So very few, if any, defendants charged with misdemeanors are, quote, languishing, in jail, waiting for something to happen.
Right. And with COVID, the pandemic, I know that they've pretty much depleted the jail of any kind of low risk offender. Nobody wants to put people's lives in danger in a pandemic by sitting in a jail. The people that should be sitting in a jail are people that are a threat to society. There's, in black and white, they have proven that they've been a threat to society in the past, which you can sort of assume they're going to be in the future.
I mean, even some of the documentation that we've read, defendant poses a significant risk to public safety. We can't craft bonds because we can't guarantee, and I'm looking at it, okay, so why is he out?
Probably, I would say, in most instances, when we start looking at these, we'll find a motion from the DA's office where the DA's office will tell the judge, hey, defendant so-and-so picked up this charge and this charge and this charge. We say no bond. Well, the judge ignores that and just goes ahead and gives a bond anyway.
So my advice to anyone out here who's currently on bond, abide by your rules and conditions, and guess what? You'll never end up on breaking bond.
That's right. Yeah. You have to act a fool.
As I like to say, you got to be a real special guest star
right.
to be a guest star on breaking bond.
Yeah. A lot of times Andy will look at these and say, this has been a busy guy. So yeah, if you're minding your own business and you're staying out of trouble, you will never ever be on breaking bond. Correct?
That's the way we're going to leave it.
That's right. And be sure to
before we go, CJ asked Mr. Wallace, Andy, who do you think is going to win tonight at the Fertitta Center? South Florida or U of H?
Hey, CJ Garcia, he messages me all the time on Facebook. He's a big Facebook friend. I'm glad you're watching right now. I'll let you take that question.
I graduated from University of Houston, End of story.
Hey, be sure to watch another riveting episode of Breaking Bond on tonight's 9 o'clock newscast on Fox 26. Thank you so much for watching this.